Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson. I've got my co-host, little Remy Lou here. Can you wave to all our fans? Good girl. So if you're watching, my nearly 1-year-old daughter is sitting in my lap, and we are welcoming my dear friend, Miss or Mrs. Kayla MacDonald to the as a return guest. New name even. New last name this to go around from whatever 3 years ago. Return guest to the podcast. Kayla, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me back. I'm excited.
I just love you. I just love your energy. I don't know if I was doing this by the time you came on the podcast, but one of the things I love to do to start all my podcasts is why I appreciate my guests. Far be it from me to say we need to start telling each other why we love each other. I think that's not too far of a crazy idea. I think that might nudge us in the direction of world peace, but who knows? But one of the things I've really admired about you is you're very introspective, you're very positive, and I think you're fully committed to this journey of improving yourself. You're very honest with yourself and you're willing to confront the person in the mirror. And that's a scary thing to do. And I really admire that because what I continue to find the people that are willing to do that, they tend to be pretty cool. They tend to be pretty fun. They tend to have really interesting stories and they're very loving and kind people because they also learn to find more love and understanding and kindness within themselves in the path and they just perpetuate that. So that's what something I've noticed and been witness to through all these whatever. I don't even really remember how we met in the first place. We might have to cover that today. But that's something that has stuck out about you through all these years. And it's my long way of saying thank you for being you.
Thank you for the kind words. And just so you remember how we met, because you're my $10,000 friend and you are worth every penny, because we actually met in a online coaching program that was not what I expected it to be. I learned a lot of discernment from that investment. And at the end of the day, I was like, I don't care because I got to meet Caleb and he's amazing and I would pay $10,000 for that again. So that's how we met.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I was doing some contract work for another company. And I only lasted there 3 months because I had to move on to the next phase of my life. But you and maybe one or two other people from that program, I've maintained a relationship throughout the years. So you know what? I'm grateful for it. You never know who and what you're going to connect with along the way. And thanks for saying that. Now I feel good about myself too. So appreciate that. Um, Before we get into it today, you know yourself better than I. So how about you share with the world who are you?
All right. So I am Kayla MacDonald. I am a health coach gone rogue because I realized that health coaching was a mask and a distraction from my true work, which is a writer, a creative, storyteller, and a dance alchemist, inner healer, unicorn fusion. Me.
A few things all wrapped into one lovely bundle, huh?
Yeah, and you wouldn't think those things all go together, but I've somehow made that a thing, and it's made my life infinitely better. And no more plans or critiquing people's form in their squat ever, which is okay with me.
All right, you got to take us on the journey of how you got through that. Yeah, you want to know too. You're trying to blow kisses. I know you just learned that skill and it's difficult. Take us on that journey. How did you get from this health coachy space? Catch us up to where we've been because people are going to go back and listen. By the way, it's Kayla Van Egdom on her last one. So like when people go look back, it's going to be under a different last name when you see it. But catch us up to where we are now. How did we get here?
Well, got the personal training job in 2015, and I was like, yes, this is my dream job. Because prior to this, I had struggled with my own health, my own fitness, started binge eating as a child, and it was my chronic thing. So I was like, I'll get into the industry and that'll fix everything. And I got back into personal training. And interestingly enough, my binge eating returned full force. I became quite stressed out because now, in personal training, your body's kind of your business card, even though they say it's not. And then I knew I didn't have aligned eating habits. And then you put on the weight and people are looking at you. Not everyone, but some people, they're going to be looking. So I struggled with my weight, my eating, all the things off and on the entire time I worked there, which was about 7 years. And fast forward to 2021, and I was burnt out. I was tired. Nothing wrong with the company. It was a beautiful place to work. And also, I knew I needed a change. And I thought that change was I need to start my own health coaching business. And that was where I met you. I invested in that coaching program. So excited. Found out there was a non-compete clause. So I was like, all right, I will honor that non-compete clause because that's the right thing to do. Got a job building doors of all things, which I actually loved. Like, I loved that job. It was just the most Kayla job other than writing. Anyways, um, and I think we talked about that on the first podcast. I'm like, let's pretend I'm the modern day Mulan. I'm in there with all those dudes and I'm learning how to do the job even better than them. And some of them hate it, but that's on them. So all of that happened. And then when it came time to try and launch my business again a year later, at the same time I was getting married to my husband, I was getting ready to move in with him. And I was, happy about that on the side and logical. I'm like, I love this man. He's amazing. This is awesome. And at the same time, I went into the biggest dark night of the soul I've had since 2010. And I was a mess. Like my eating was chaotic. I was always unhappy. I was ugly crying about everything. I was like, clients hate this. So eventually I did go back to working full time at a door building company. And along the way, I did a lot of, like you said, the introspection, the deep work, and I was seeing a really powerful counselor at the time. And she talks a lot about ancestral wounding and how, you know what, a lot of the stuff you sometimes feel isn't necessarily yours. And through that work, I realized the stress and the overwhelm I felt was less about the business and more about I'm about to get married. And in both my mother and my father's lines, marriage has not been a good thing for the women in either line from what I've seen. So even though I was choosing someone that I loved and wanted to be with, I still had those, you know, ancestral codes from mothers, grandmothers, whatever it might be, that felt unsafe around that. So then came time to kind of get back into the world of doing something to help people because I knew I still wanted to do that. And I discovered this modality called dance alchemy. And I was like, this is like something I meant to do. I meant to weave it into other offers. This was the thing that healed my relationship with food and really helped my creativity, my emotional stability, all these things. And it was actually through my own daily dance practice that I started to realize A, I don't want to be a health coach, at least not the regular vanilla health coach. If I'm going to do it at all, I want to disrupt the industry because there's so much wrong with it. And I continued on this journey and got back into writing and creativity. And then during a dance alchemy session, I started weaving together this process that really combined like parts work and creativity and imagination and dance. And this was the thing that helped me more than anything else. So dance alchemy was like getting me there. And then the rest of this stuff, when I started doing it, I went months on end, no binge eating, I finally broke the 2 hour mark on a half marathon, which I've been trying to do for 13 years. I got the courage to leave that door building job that I was, in love with for a long time, but it was time to go. And the journey to starting to do the business building now versus 2022, it's like, wow, I actually am consistent and I can show up and get visible and can do all these things that felt next to impossible when I was trying to do health coaching. And then I realized health coaching has never been the thing that's helped me. It's actually been writing and creativity and imagination. And I think that's the missing key for so many people is they go to this like health and fitness world thinking that's going to solve all their problems, but it feels like a drudgery. It feels like they got to do it. Feels like "Mm, I just got to lose these pounds. So let's, go take my walk and prep these veggies. And it just feels stale and boring. But when you can actually find a way to infuse like creativity and imagination into it, that changes everything. So that is the hopefully not too long journey of how I was a health coach and then took a really long time to realize that I do not want to be a health coach.
Uh, I love you. You're awesome. Something that stuck out to me in that story, we talked about this when I was on just recently, I guess, on your podcast, the alignment blueprint I talked about. The more you continue to learn, like somebody spends time living in alignment with their purpose, the other stuff kind of just happens naturally. Now, that's not easy because to continually choose the thing that you, whatever purpose is, requires it requires some deep reflection often to come back to trusting your gut, especially if you're not used to it. And what I'm hearing there is it sounds backwards. Oh man, not focus on the food and exercise. It's there. Like everybody's going to eat and everybody's going to move. But when you find the thing that brings you joy and fulfillment and creation, right? The creativity is under the word is the creation of something. You're not just consuming those, and you're filled with love and inner joy and inner self love. The external stuff seems to just take care of itself. You're more inspired to show up. You said you ran the marathon or half marathon under 2 hours. Huh, it probably was a lot easier to show up and go run because you already felt good about yourself. Like, cool, I guess I'll go for a run today. Or when you sat down to a meal, oh, I feel good. Like, I don't need to like bury my sorrows under peanut butter cups and God, whatever. I'm just making stuff up right now. Um, Inherently, what I'm hearing is the deeper you develop your relationship with yourself, the external, the body started to fall in line with what is happening internally with that image of self-love. And you feel better in your body, you feel better in your thing, and go figure you can show up doing whatever professional outlet you're doing. Go figure trying to help people with the same creative expression. It's a long way of saying like I'm really enjoying just you're highlighting something that seems so, I guess it's paradoxical is the right word. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to work this way, but it works this way because people don't think long enough into it about enjoying your life while having a relationship with your body and food and health and everything else that comes along with it. So that's my rant to piggyback off of your long thing. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Two things. One is I think it's so common for food to be a symbolic substitute. It's something we reach for when we're actually hungry for something else. So for me, it was anytime I stopped writing, that's what I realized. The eating habits would kind of fall apart again. So when I was writing regularly, the eating challenges just melted away because I wasn't hungry for food necessarily. I was actually hungry for creativity, for imagination, for doing this thing that made my soul so happy. And the other thing is think people get stuck on body transformation island, and then they get so consumed with like, what's the perfect diet? What's the perfect this and that? But you're not just trying to improve your healthy habits and, you know, do whatever it is in that realm so you can just live on body transformation island. Where do you want to go from there? Because this is something I've noticed in myself and in a lot of really high performing women who have a very turbulent relationship with food. They know exactly what to eat. They've read all the books. They've done all the plans. They've done all the coaching. They're very smart. They could probably coach other people on how to do this. But here's what happens. They know they're meant for these bigger things, these expansive things. They want to go out and do things in the world. And it probably feels like too much, too dramatic, too out there, to whatever it might be. So what they do is they create a very dramatic cyclical relationship with food. So it's the binging and then it's the overcompensating with exercise or going down really hard and then binging again. And it becomes this very perpetuating cycle. And that keeps them in this very small world. So they don't have to go after that bigger stuff because the bigger stuff they're going to have to risk the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of, you know, looking a certain way to certain people. So it's not actually about the food is actually just their safe place that's stopping them from going here. So once people realize that and they decide, I don't actually want to live on Food Drama Island for the rest of my life, I'm going to start taking steps towards this. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. And yes, I might go backwards at times, but I'm still going to keep taking steps that way. And I believe for a certain type of woman, that is really the only way to kind of break free from that struggle with food. That's definitely been my experience, at least.
We just had an unexpected visitor, but that was lovely. Um, I love what you just said there, especially the element about safety. The irony that what do you call it? Food drama island or food island or something, wait, something along those lines. There's a blend of words in there. It's the safe place. It doesn't seem like it is. They're really angry about it, but it's actually the same safe cycle. Like, oh, if I just stay in this, like I know how to lose the weight, but it comes back on and I know how to do it. I know how to do it all over again. And that's the problem because what you just talked about, to go put yourself out there, whether it's creativity is an expression of the self. Oh, and if I get rejected on that thing, am I really rejected? Am I really alone? It's like I understand what this alone feels like in the body transformation problem, but I don't know what that other alone feels like. And it might be worse. It might be more scary. It might be even more lonely. I might not be able to survive that. And I love that you really isolate it to especially high performing women, high performers in general, but definitely women especially, but the body image stuff really ties in. And of like they're stuck in all these boxes anyway. They're feeling so trapped in all of this. Honey, relax, baby. Um, it, it's really tough, especially if they've not really tapped into a real creative element within themselves. Like that's scary. Their feminine side, maybe they really haven't been in touch with it. Maybe like a hyper masculine energy, hyper masculine role, and really haven't connected to that. Chances are, even in their personal life, they haven't been able to step outside of that. So I love what you're talking about there, that it's not, honey, relax. You have friends everywhere. Just chill. My co-host is getting a little fussy. She wants more snacks. Um,
Aw.
that that was really insightful for thank you, Remy. Thank you for making your imprint on the show. That was very insightful. I think anybody who's listening, I know she's making alarm sounds with her mouth, so everybody pays attention to this point in time. Here, Daddy gives you snacks. Um, that was really insightful. Uh, tell people a little more about this dark night of the soul thing, because that's kind of like a term that's out there, but it sounds like you really dug in during that. Um, give us a little more clarity on that for anybody who might not know anything about that.
So, what a dark night of the soul is, or what this specific one entailed for me?
A little bit of both.
So, a dark night of the soul is kind of a rock bottom existential, like, why is this happening? You're confused at the time. You have no idea what's going on. It feels really dark. It can feel hopeless because it doesn't make sense when you're in the moment. But those dark nights, if you're able to drop in and do the work around them, and I wouldn't recommend doing it alone, especially for really bad ones. There's so many good therapists, coaches, practitioners out there. You can actually gain a lot of wisdom and insight from them. And again, I think some of my biggest lessons from that time were, and it took me a while to learn them, especially the second one. The first one was acknowledging some of the wounds in my ancestral lineage. And I just did an episode on this on my own podcast about, breaking cycles. So I come from two lines where the women were expected to get married, forced to get married, whatever it might be. It was just an obligation. And these marriages had everything from financial domination, emotional unavailability, abuse. Their husbands were often, addicted to substances. So that was what I saw. And actually, for the longest time, I did not want to get married. I was like, no, I am never getting married. I that was like a hard thing for me for a long time. And for quite a long time, I also wanted nothing to do with men. Until I met my husband and, other nice men like you. And I'm like, they're not all bad, Kayla. In fact, most of them aren't bad. You're just being an angsty young 20-year-old that's making blanket judgments. However, I've realized that a lot of my challenges are with men because of these different dynamics I've experienced. So I had to go through a journey of learning to feel safe in the marriage. And that was nothing that my husband was doing wrong. He is the best man and he is a safe place. This was work I had to do from the inside out. And I think that was one of the reasons I kept seeking, and I knew I was meant to be in this dance alchemy program. And one of the most magical things about it is it allows you to heal through the body. Because when I was going through all this stuff with the, dark night of the soul, I didn't know why. I had no clue. I'm like, I guess I'm just really bad at business. I guess I just suck at everything. I guess I just have like no grit or willpower. Like I thought I was better than this, but no, I am a weak ass bitch. But it wasn't that. And when I started to do these dance practices, like so much emotion and insight came from that. And I realized it was never actually about the business so much. It was about all of these other things. And when you have a practice where you can connect to your body and move your body in more of a freestyle way, you actually don't have to figure it out with your brain. Your body can start to figure things out and release and heal without you having to do it on the mental level. And that's why I'm so obsessed with this particular modality. And if your listeners take one thing away from this, just dance to a few songs every morning and just let your body do what it needs to, and you'll be amazed what happens after like a couple weeks. So that was one thing. And then the other one was, this one took me forever, but just realizing, Kayla, you don't want to be a health coach, but you're trying to stay in that world because it's safe. You've done it for so long, and you put so much work into it, right? So it's almost like a sunk cost. And it's interesting because you're one of the people that I've done like a little book writing consultation with. And I've heard someone say, like, if you wouldn't do it for free, it's not your thing. And meanwhile, I'm like, oh, you want me to train you? Yeah, pay me, but actually don't even pay me because I don't want to train you. Meanwhile, someone's like, you want to write a book? Let me just talk to you for an hour and help you for free because I just love it. And finally realizing that, and also breaking through some of my own limiting beliefs of like, you can't make money doing that. People aren't going to want help with that. People just want to lose weight. They're not going to want what you have to offer because it's weird. It's out there. But I know those people are out there. And if it takes longer for them to find me, I'm willing to keep showing up. So, because I know that what I've created for myself, other people are going to eat it up and be transformed by it. And in the meantime, I'm gonna write and create and do the things I love. And when I finally made that transition, it was like so much weight lifted off my shoulders and so much pressure to be someone I actually didn't want to be anymore.
Here's the irony of what I think you're going to find in this path now, and perhaps you're already seeing it with clients. Probably going to get more people to lose more weight going this route than the other way around because the I mean, correct me if anything is wrong in what I'm saying here. The creative process forces you to tap into all your lessons. It forces you to face some of those dark nights, face some of those deeper challenges within ourselves, and it calls upon the inner workings. But when you get those things out of the way through a creative process, those same limiting beliefs, factors, whatever, also apply to your health and fitness journey. Maybe somebody makes more money, maybe somebody has more, they feel better in their body, in their mind, whatever it is. Like we were talking about before. Oh, I guess I'll go work out and do all the health things that I already know what to do. Like the information's out there for free right now. Nobody, everybody's listening right now. I'm sure all of you could follow along and then list 5 things you could do right now to lose weight. When I realized that, I was like, so that's really not the problem. We need to go figure out all the deeper stuff that is actually the problem standing in the way. It just ends up showing up on the physical body. So I think it's really powerful. Like you're focusing on helping somebody birth an element of themselves into the world. That is a pretty hefty energetic expense. But I guess like where I'm going with this is like the spiritual weight loss that comes along with that process makes way for the rest of it, the external stuff too. You see where I'm going with it?
Absolutely. And that's the great irony that I found is when I left the health coaching industry, I got in the best shape of my life after leaving the industry.
Pretty common for the record, because like it's the weight of like I'm not living in my zone of genius, and you're it's like trying to what's they're saying trying to jam a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't fit, so you Frankenstein your way into this situation, but because it's so energetically taxing, the things like at the end of the day are like where you're like I don't need a glass of wine or whatever somebody's thing is. You don't have the energetic reserves to be like that's I'm not going to say no to that or even put it in your life or whatever it is. So, and a long way of saying I commend you for taking that leap of faith and stepping outside of that. And I mean, you look great. Your our last couple of conversations have just been phenomenal. Like your energy is not that I ever thought your energy was bad around me, but like your energy is definitely noticeably awesome. And it's really cool. Like as a fan of yours, I'm happy for you because it's great. And I know it's going to translate into other elements of your life. Like that's incredible. Where do you see this going?
So I have big visions and big dreams. Um, and they're pretty wild, but I am excited for them. So I see myself creating a how do I even describe this? Because it's going to sound so wild. It's a mystery school where you turn your own personal growth or spiritual healing journey into like a spicy fan fiction romance novel or a like one of those like smutty books that people read. But you're doing it with your own personal growth journey. You're turning it into a story. You're really stepping into like main character energy. There's going to be the energetic work I've learned to do. There's going to be dance, storytelling, and it's going to be just this community of women who are ready to stop trying to fix themselves and start learning how to actually write their own stories. And yeah, that's pretty exciting to me. And then, of course, I've gotten back into my own writing. There's a book that has been on my shelf unedited, unpublished for 5 years. And it's the third book in a trilogy, and it's my favorite couple in the entire trilogy. And for whatever reason, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna edit that. Actually, I know exactly why I didn't edit it. But now I'm like, I'm gonna edit it now, and I'm gonna publish that third book. I don't care if it's been 5 years.
I love that. I think we're gonna call this podcast episode "Main Character Energy." For the record, I love that. That was I don't know if I've ever heard that, but I like it a lot. What are you finding the greatest limitation to these women in like stepping forward into this? What's like their biggest hold up?
I think there's a few things. I think one of them is that low self-worth and feeling like they're not good enough until XYZ, instead of moving from that place of like full unconditional self-worth and self-love. And that can be really hard to do when you've spent your entire lifetime beating yourself up, always raising the bar every time you do make progress, always looking for everything that's wrong. And, a lot of these women have also either grown up being told in some way that they're not enough, or they get those messages put on them by people in society, because a lot of the women this is for, they're the women that have been told, you're too much, you're too emotional, you're too intense, you come on too strong, and then, from there, the next kind of thing that they get told from there is usually, you're crazy. And that is one of the quickest ways to write someone off. Just, you're crazy. So these women have internalized that. So for them to move out of the traditional, let's do another 30-day challenge, let's do this, instead of like owning the fact that they are intense and they are ambitious and they have big emotions, those things are actually not detriments. They're actually assets when used correctly, and when you take back the narrative power of, wait, this isn't a problem, this is actually a character strength when I kind of use it in the right way. It's kind of like a kitchen knife. You can use it to really hurt somebody, or you can use it to chop up your vegetables and make a beautiful meal for someone you love. It's about how you're using something, not the thing itself.
There was something that just came up there for me that I was hearing. Oh my God, what was it? It was dad brain is settling in right now. Oh my God, there was something really good in what you just said. Now I'm really upset that I can't think of it. Oh my God. Well, it had something to do with about like writing a book in and of itself, but also like the too much. Oh man, I've lost it a little bit. I think that the whole writing a book thing is powerful in and of itself because being challenged to put your thoughts down on paper, whether you're writing a fantasy novel, you said a smutty novel, a dirty novel, whatever, any doesn't matter. A fiction, I just told you I read a friend. I was just actually on a call with my friend who wrote a book called The Primordial Code. I was like, it was fiction. I was like, it's still your thoughts. It's still your framing. It's still part of you. It's still part of like your creative expression. I think it's so valuable because you're still, in some way, shape, or form, your thoughts, beliefs, perspectives are showing up on the page. Where did we go? Brief intermission, little internet connectivity, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're both here to do. What was I saying? Something along the lines of just putting your thoughts down on paper, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. You're putting an element of yourself and your beliefs down on paper, either to confront them intentionally or to push them out into the world to share them. I think there's just something really beautiful about doing that. And it's a really I don't think enough people spend time thinking about how they think. Thus, the reason why they're stuck in the place they're doing it. Are you finding I'm assuming that most of them are doing like fiction novels. Are you finding that that writing fiction is helpful for them, or is it more difficult because it's fiction? I'm curious actually about that because I've never written. That's not true. When I was in second grade, I wrote a fiction novel, but I was in second grade and it was mostly the same 5 words repeated over and over again. But yeah, I'm curious about that.
Interesting question. So the difference between nonfiction and journaling versus fiction. I think it really depends on the person. So some people are going to write something fictional and they'll just write it because it's fun and it's, they like Lord of the Rings, so they want to write their own Lord of the Rings thing. Um, but I think fiction can be one of the most healing and transformative writing journeys you can go on. And I've actually found that my own fiction writing has been more helpful and more transformative than the nonfiction book I wrote. And I think the reason for that is that when you're writing fiction, you're a little bit more removed from it. Like when I was writing my nonfiction book, Your Body is Not a Weapon, whatever, it was fine, but I was very much writing it to a reader. And it was almost like me sharing from a place of, oh, there's going to be an audience. But when you're writing fiction and it's more for yourself to start, it's amazing what'll come through, especially if you're using the fiction writing process to heal some of your own stuff in a more removed way because you're not, you know, trying to just write your memoir or whatever it might be. So, for example, one of the first novels I ever published was The Pleasure Seekers, and it was very dark and very there was a lot going on in that book. And it was helping me process a lot of the rage I felt about my relationships with men back in the day. So this was my early 20s, Kayla. And it was very dramatic and it was just all over the place, but it really helped me process some of those emotions without just me being like, well, I'm venting about da 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 da. It was like, no, let's actually write something that's healing in a fictional way. So I don't think I answered your question. So you asked if it was harder to write fiction and harder to kind of experience benefits from it. Is that correct?
Yes, but I actually really liked your response to just wherever you took it because that's what I'm hearing is because you're more removed, maybe the right word is permission. It gives you permission to just put it out on the page. How did you just say that? It was like you're not writing to an audience, you're just writing it. And I can see how that would land differently when, let's say, you're writing to an audience and you're upset at somebody. That person that you're upset with theoretically is reading that. So it's like boom on the nose. And if you already struggle with confrontation, now is there like passive aggressive stuff? And is this person gonna be upset and offended? Blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. The fiction sounds like there's permission to put it on the page without them personifying the emotions or anything like that if they are to read it. It makes it more about the story as opposed to just the reader, even though the reader can tap into the story however they need to. Am I saying that correctly?
Absolutely. And it's funny you mention that because early 20s Kayla was had a lot of anger. So she actually wrote a book and you cannot find it. It's unpublished. Don't go look for it. I wrote a book about how to stop attracting crappy romantic relationships. And obviously I changed names. The stories were still the stories. And it was just like all this advice about like you have to get out of the drama triangle and you have to stop trying to save people and raise your standards. And it was very much like a self-righteous, like, here's my stories about how bad these guys were, and now here's what not to do. And, I unpublished it for a reason. And but when you're writing fiction, you can still process some of those challenges and still get out some of those emotions, but it's a story. It's not about those people. One of the best quotes or concepts I've ever heard is anytime you write about anyone, even if the character is completely based on a real person, It's still not about them. It's about you because you are writing about that person through your filter and your perception. And your perception is not the only perception. Someone else could have a completely different experience with that person based on how they view the world. And when you can honor that when you're writing fiction, you're like, okay, maybe this was like loosely based off some dude I dated back in the day, but it's not about him. It's still about how I related to him and how he was a mirror for something that I needed to heal within myself.
That's very insightful. That's definitely going to be a clip, by the way. Tell me about, I want to hear two things. Tell me about your writing process. What does that look like? And then also, what's it like guiding somebody through a writing experience to like to birth a book, novel, whatever out of their head? Was it like as the person who's coaching, maybe ghostwriting? I don't know exactly what that looks like, but tell me a little about both of those things, both first you, and then I want to hear about like what that experience is like for somebody receiving them.
All right. So for me, I have been writing since I was 12. And now the process looks like I will create an outline for what I want the book to be. And one of my favorite books on writing is The Art of Fiction by Ayn Rand. And yes, she's controversial, but her book is really good. I still like The Fountainhead. I'm not sorry. Anyways, and she has this whole idea of a plot theme. So the plot is obviously the actions that happen in a book, but the theme is the deeper message you're trying to convey within the book. And then all of the actions, the plot points, should support that theme by the end of the book. So I use that to inform the outline that I build. And then I'll write from there. And it's, yeah, I've never really thought about like my process before. But that's basically it. And then I'll let the book sit for anywhere from a couple months to 5 years if I'm really, checked out for whatever reason. And then I'll go back and edit it myself first. And then I'll send it to a beta reader, an editor, whatever. They'll give it another run through. I'll make all their changes. And then I've mostly done self-publishing. I have traditionally published, okay, I've traditionally published one, and then I kind of did a kind of a vanity publisher once, and self-publishing is my favorite, for many reasons. So that's my process. And then I'm gonna
Before
be
you before you jump on that, what is the reasons why you like self-publishing more specifically?
so with traditional publishing, it's a very slow process. And the publishing company I worked with was a smaller company. I didn't have control over things like the cover art. So when I saw the cover art, I actually I was young. I was early 20s. It was my first book getting published. I cried because it was so not the cover I wanted. But that was what their branding was, and that's how their books look. So you couldn't do anything. Um, Unfortunately, I got to buy the rights back to that book after 5 years or something, and now it has a new cover that's exactly what I always dreamed. And then the vanity publishing was just an interesting experience for multiple reasons. One of them was that they promised you would have a bestseller no matter what. And I'm like, it's nice. I'd love a best-selling book. And, to be able to borrow their audience to help make that happen. They get you a best-selling book by putting your book in a ridiculously obscure category. So my book, Your Body Is Not a Weapon, was about like body image and health and overcoming your relationship with food. Put it in the breastfeeding category on Amazon. And I'm like, really? There's not a single chapter on breastfeeding in this whole book. But they're like, don't worry, this is going to get you your number one placement. I'm like, because how many books are there about breastfeeding on the internet that people are buying? So, when you self-publish, you have the creative control. And yes, you're putting your own money in, and yes, you're paying for all this stuff. But at the end of the day, then it's yours. And if you want to change things, do whatever you want. It gives you a lot of creative control. And yes, then you have to do your own marketing. But these days, unless you get like a really big book deal, you have to do a lot of that anyways. So that's my self-publishing soapbox.
That's very good to know. As you know, I'm still working on that book. I need to finish mine up and finally put that out. That told my wife this year I was going to do it. We could talk off camera after like some of my ideas how I want to do it, but um,
Yes, please.
yeah, absolutely. Take me through. Okay, so now take me through. Well, the reason why I'm asking this is knowing what it feels like to try to take on writing a book and wanting that, and like I want to get my thoughts out of my head, and it's daunting. It can seem very daunting, especially if you're like, I have all these thoughts. How do I fit it into time? How do like all that stuff? Obviously, the fact that you have a coaching background is so powerful on top of the love of writing, all that. Take How do you make this seemingly daunting task not so daunting to somebody?
There's a few things, and I will level with you in that I've just done free sessions for people. I've never actually taken someone through the full book writing process yet. That is still a work in progress, but you're absolutely right. It weaves together I actually have an English and creative writing degree. That was what I did in university. It weaves together, 7+ years of coaching. So coaching wasn't all bad. It just wasn't where I was meant to be forever. And I think that when you have someone who has a writing background, who's written books before, both fiction and nonfiction, they can help you start to organize things into a cohesive plan to start. What I found with a lot of the people I've helped with their books is you actually want to write 3 different books. So this is actually 3 different books. So what you want to do is help them distill it to one core idea. It comes down to that plot theme. Or if you are writing a nonfiction book like you are, what's the one core kind of transformational journey you want to take your reader through? And then you're going to use that to inform all of the different pieces in the book. And you're right, it's a huge process. And I have people who will be like, okay, but where do I get an editor? How do I where do I get a cover? And they're very much looking at the whole big journey instead of taking that one next step. So if you have listeners that are writing, do not think about publishing, do not think about your cover. Just start to maybe outline some notes. And then maybe you decide you're just going to write 1 paragraph a day or 1 page a day and just take it one step at a time. And what happens then is that action will precede clarity. And this has happened to me when I've been writing. So I'll be in the middle of a novel and I'll have my rough outline and then I'll write part of it and then I'll go for a run or do some kind of movement and be like, oh, this is what needs to happen next. This is my next plot bunny. That's like a writer term that's super cute. Like, this is how this falls into place. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you will figure things out as you go and just give yourself permission to take those baby steps at the beginning and let it be something that you show up for consistently, whatever that looks like for you.
You ever read the book The War of Art?
Love that book. Yes.
It's sounding a little bit like that of like how do you hit that little it's like a lot of things like habit coaching in general. Hey Remy, take a beat and breathe, honey. Relax. Sounds like habit coaching. Do what you can every day, but like commit to the thing. Hey, we're chill now. We're chill. Do that. Silly. Um, come here. Daddy will snuggle you, but you're interrupting his chat with his friend. Yeah, I know you want to be part of the action. Welcome to parenthood, people. Um, Here, I give you your water, and then we get back into the conversation. Okay? No, okay, well, we're stubborn. That's okay. What was I saying? I apologize. It's like habit coaching, and one of the big things that keeps coming out is the word permission. Like, give yourself permission to like meet yourself where you're at and do a little bit every day, and go figure, you'll start getting a book out there. Remy, I really thought we were going to have a good nap time today. Hold on. Pump the brakes. Daddy's gonna have to clip that part out because you're a sad girl. That's okay. Now we're back. Now we're chill. Ah,
Yes.
all my parents are empathizing right now. But I know you feel me. I'm gonna chill out, man. I'll put you on this chair. Okay, sit here. Okay, you win. Yeah, you're very cute. Daddy knows it. She just wants to be my side companion, just sitting in the chair. She needs her own podcast chair. This kid is pure comedy. Permission seems to be the big word of the day, of like all this pressure for everything, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. And I think that's like a kind of a universal thing that's going on right now. We're waiting for everybody else's permission to do anything, to start our project, to start our book, to whatever. And it has to be this big thing and worrying about like the polished, finished cover and all that. It's like, if you don't have the meat and potatoes in the middle, it doesn't matter what publishing company you use or what any of that stuff because you don't have anything to actually sell. You just sell a bunch of blank pages. And that's, unless you're a graphic designer, like that's not all you're selling here. Like we're selling a whole thing with it. So I think it's great. Are you ready to publish you said that third installment is ready to get ready to go? When's that coming out?
I am on chapter 10 of 33. So actually it's interesting that you mentioned that. I was doing some planning this morning. September 24th is kind of the target date. Yeah.
Not that far away.
But as long as you do like it is, it's just one chapter a day, and then your other editors don't take that long, and then a cover. So I kind of have a good concept of how long everything takes because I've done it 4 or 5 times. So yeah.
Your casual nature about this whole writing a book thing is like dumbfounding to me because I'm like, the idea of going through that publishing process, that in and of itself, right there, helping somebody self-publish and letting them feel more confident, that's massively valuable because there's so much stuff that's out there. There's so many, everyone and their mother's trying to sell you on something or whatever, but like, hey, how do I just do this and still maintain like some creative control? Because I think that's a big thing at most people are writing a book not to be a bestseller. Sure, that's a nice like feather in the cap kind of thing, but if you're really getting down to it, it's like I wanted to just share my thoughts and I wanted somebody else to benefit from it. And like, let's be at that. It is really about you going through your own healing journey, which is so ironic when we really pull all the stuff away. It is always about us. But how do we think about making it not just for us, but like selflessly serving somebody else? And if you don't have somebody else to help shepherd you through that, I think they can get lost really fast. So obviously having you be able to guide them through that's going to be super. As somebody who sat down and did a consult with you, what was it, a couple of years ago? I was like, this feels like a great coaching session because what do you walk away with? More clarity, manageable, actionable action points. Like, oh, this doesn't seem. It feels like what's it? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That kind of thing. Well, you gave me the bite to do, and it wasn't super daunting. It seemed like, oh, I could breathe into this. I could find a rhythm here. And the coaching stuff, I know that's the big one, like helping somebody pull the thoughts out of their head. Like, how are you trying to say this? That's hard. That's a gift. So, again, I think not enough people think about the coaching background being such a powerful tool in this relationship because most people can't coach worth a lick. They're just like, here's the piece of paper. And like, it's just another hyper structured thing that makes somebody feel even more boxed in to an already daunting situation. Where if you have that coaching background, especially when you've dealt with body image stuff with people and how it relates to their family and everything else that goes along with their work and stress and blah 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 blah, being able to know how to like pare that back to just do the thing that they already know what to do, that's a real gift. And obviously, you've been through a lot of experiences, so like they're probably going to jive with what you've gone through as well. Be like, oh, cool, she gets me, she understands me. I think that's just really fantastic. I think that I've been thinking a lot about legacy lately, and we talked about it a little bit on the last one with transcendence and all that stuff. A book really speaks to legacy because it's what you leave behind. So even just like we take this whole bestseller thing off the table, there's a book out there. Who knows when it could go to number one? It could be number one 80 years after you die. Like, hopefully not, but like it could. I think that's why it's something so powerful about writing a book. Are you finding that that's part of what are some of like deeper inspirations that you see with people wanting to write a book that most common with us kind of like this genre with this process?
Be multiple ones. I think a lot of people do have a life story that or some experiences they've been through that they know will help other people. They don't want their challenges or their ordeals to be in vain. And there is something really powerful about taking someone's story and putting it down on paper and letting someone else potentially read it and be like, wow, I'm actually not alone. Because then it feels like that struggle wasn't in vain. I'm going to butcher this quote because I heard it forever ago. It was Aubrey Marcus, and he was on Tim Ferriss's podcast. And he talked about how when you can actually start to be grateful for something, then it's no longer trauma. And once you can be grateful for it and it's no longer trauma, and you can actually turn around and help someone else with that same thing, then you've kind of completed the circle. And I think that's such a big thing for people who want to write a book. And it might be big T trauma, it might be little T trauma, like everybody's been through stuff. And if they can then take that and find the meaning in it and put that into like something that they made, that like I'm holding this thing I made in my hands and it's the evidence of my own healing and my own transformation, and then they get to bring that out into the world. That is massive, and that is healing in itself. It's making art out of your pain.
It's like the ultimate transmutation. And to me, I'm thinking like it is the external transformation. It is the metaphorical after body of like a physical transformation. It's the idea of what we want. I think what you're saying is that was really, really, really cool. Oh, I'd like to get your take on this. So I was going through my own writing process, and especially in the middle of the book, I was like, it was like pulling teeth out of my head. And what he shared with me was like, yeah, these things are it's your unconscious competence. Like this is you're just good at this shit. But you don't know necessarily how you've done it, do it because you've just been doing it for so long. So why this is so difficult is you're having to slow down and think about how you do this thing. You don't even think about it. Are you finding that a lot? Because that was, I mean, on top of the fact of the reliving experiences and going through the stuff and trauma, right? Big T, little T, whatever it is. Um, that was harder than I anticipated. And are you noticing that? And have you noticed that with yourself?
With writing books or with
I guess anything for me, like writing the book, which is not completely done, like the framework is out. Um, the stuff, like the processy things in my head of like, this is how I think about coaching or transformation or whatever it is, was out. But to get that out was like me slowing down and really having to think about how do I do this? That was what was hard for me. And it was also hidden behind some like emotional blocks and stuff like that that was related to those experiences that taught me the lessons. But that's what I'm trying to get at.
the two things on that. One is that whole unconscious competence idea, and everybody thinks that's like the best because you're just doing it automatically. But I read a book, I don't remember the book, but he talked about how no, you don't actually want unconscious competence. You want conscious competence because then you know why you're doing it, why it works, and you can repeat it then instead of just being like, well, I just go automatically into a zone. So one of the reasons I don't experience that quite as much is because I have like a mildly obsessive journal habit. Like I am on like day 2000 and something of a writing streak. I know that because I'm on this like program that keeps track of your streak. And in my journals, I'm really intentional about keeping track of the big lessons month to month. And then at the end of the month, I'll review them and be like, okay, this was the big lesson. So then I can go back and like review all those. And I think that's how I've been able to reverse engineer a lot of what I've done, both in like offers I've created in the past and then even with writing projects themselves. So if someone is finding that they want to have more of that ease with writing, a regular journal habit, and having some way to organize your thoughts, however that might be, so you can go back to them and like refer to like the big nuggets, that can be so helpful as well.
So in general, it sounds like this daily journaling thing, the daily habit of just getting your thoughts out of your head, still king. I mean, I've said this for a long time. I think journaling is one of the most underrated things that are going. This getting the chaos that's up here in the stratosphere down onto like a solid material thing that you can witness really does a lot more good than I think ever really can get credit for until you start doing it. You're like, oh, I get it. There seems to be the habit. That's impressive, by the way. 2,000 some odd days in a row of journaling. Hot damn, girl. That's a hell of a lot of introspection right there. So good on you for chipping away at that. And it must be nice just knowing you have like this reservoir of stuff already there and more or less we'll call it pre-processed. That's phenomenal. Uh, I'm just loving you right now. You're just awesome. I'm very excited. I'm very excited because I think where we're going in the world now is more, especially with the rise of AI, especially with all this stuff. I think we're really going into this age of it's easier for it's easier and it's also required of the individual to like rise. What does it mean to be unique? Truly, I think we have very bastardized versions of those by the by and large. But I think part of that, and what I continue to witness, is people that really want to become the most of themselves, the best version of themselves, have this hero's journey that accompanies with it. And writing a book often goes hand in hand, or speaking or that kind of stuff becomes part of their process, becomes part of the story because it is healing, because it is like, let me share my lessons, let me give this forward, let me in a sense make sure my pain had meaning, make my life have meaning for whomever might come after me. And I think that what you're bringing to the table, I think there's going to be a even bigger need as somebody who struggled to just sit and do it by himself, having that structure, having somebody who's been there, somebody who makes you feel safe, especially when you're putting down some thoughts sometimes on something a little funky, a little creative, a little wonky, a little silly even. Remy, you're gonna fall. Here we go. I think it's just beautiful that what you're doing there. So I don't know where the end of my thought was on that one, but it's mostly just like you're awesome, and I continue to value what you're doing for the world, even though it just continues to evolve into the best version of you now. That which is super important. Hey Remy, you're gonna go right here and chill out, or maybe I'll be giving you some more crunchies. Uh, Looking at the time, I want to be respectful of your time. Let's move into our fun. I have 3 fun questions that I want to share with you today. Question number 1. When you were younger, what were the sports or creative activities, kind of have a feeling of what your creative activity was, that you participated in, and how did you play? Like, what was your style? So with sports, like some people are like, oh, I was a captain, I played all positions of the field. So with art, people got art's something that I'm still fascinated with. Anyway, without me interjecting too much more, I want to just let you take it where you want to take it. What was your sport or creative activity, and how did you play?
I had two, and they were a little different. So, basketball was my sport, and I loved it. I'll just leave this as open to interpretation. I once got a reward for being the most intense player on the floor. And I was also captain of my girls' basketball team. Yeah, but the most intense player on the floor. So that was basketball, and then the other thing was, reading and writing. And how did I do that? That was like my way of rebelling as a young kid. Like some kids will, break curfews and go drink and do all this other stuff. No, I was writing NC-17 fan fictions at like 12, 13, 14 years old. Um, so yeah, that's one of the wild things about little Kayla. And I was not even active until I was 19 years old. But yeah, this was just what I was writing and reading. And then when I got to 19, I'm like, nothing like my fan fictions. It's
So why I asked this question, I love your response, by the way. In college, I took this class. Essentially, it was on play. And more or less, it was like play is very important. It tells you a lot about how you are. And I kind of cast it aside at the time because anything that was not with scores and like win the game and all that kind of stuff, needless to say, I've struggled with free play in my life. Conversation, what I've learned is my free play. Um, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, it tells you a lot about how you operate in the world. So intense, like you have very intense side. Captain, so leadership roles, you like to be like guiding people, and then a little bit off the cuff, a little bit like on the edge, like pushing the boundaries. I love it. Like, and guess what? You're still doing the same thing today. So it's to me that question, just like that reflection with all those things and kind of like making peace with my thing in college was, wait, we've been who we are all along. Just did we highlight it? And that's hard for us to sometimes see. So great answer. Love your answer. Question number two. You're stranded on a deserted island. You get to bring one book, or pardon, one movie and one. I mean, I guess we could go book because you're definitely an avid reader. One one movie and one show that you get to listen to or watch the rest of your life.
so
What
wait, one of each or
one
just
movie,
one?
one movie and one show. And if you want to go rogue here, because you're allowed to do whatever you want on this show, is you can do a book. What is it and why? And you can do all of them if you want.
Oh my goodness. Okay, one movie, Blades of Glory, because I love Will Ferrell and him in his ice skating outfit. And I feel like if I was stranded on an island, I'd want to laugh a lot. Um, Show would be Supernatural because Vincent Ackles and Misha Collins, and there's a lot of episodes. Book would be a really tough one. Could I bring a whole series? All right. So I'll bring the J.R. Ward Black Dagger Brotherhood series because there's also a lot of them. She has one of my favorite couples in book world of all time.
It sounds like a very fitting response with the themes and the thematic stuff you like to engage in. Love it. One thing that there's always a connection, and everybody who answers this, there's always something comedy related. People like to laugh. That's something I continue to realize as well. Like, cool people also got a pretty dang good sense of humor. Like, if you can't laugh, what are you doing in this life? I don't know. But the book definitely doesn't surprise me. So, what is that series all about?
It's about these like vampire warriors and they're, battling this other evil army and they're just smutty. They're actually like quite well written as well. So I I like the steamy books, but they have to actually have like soul at the same time.
Like good character development, all the other kind of stuff that goes along with it. Cool. I dig that.
Yes.
Final question. Oh, well, my reason why I asked that question is I think the entertainment we engage with tells us a lot about like what would we come back to all the time if we want to laugh, what is the story we want to be told, especially if like, oh, we're also talking about smutty stuff like for sexual beings as well. Like, but is it just raw or is it like connected? And that's an interesting part of like just even how you said it. Like, this is why it's important is the character development done in an appropriate way where it actually is it's more than just sex on the page, whatever, that kind of thing. Um, Good response. I don't think we've done a book before. That's good. Now, and we went ahead and we made it beyond just a book. We made it a book series. Final question: what is your deathbed meal? Who are you sharing it with, and why?
I'm definitely sharing with Chris because he's the best and I just love him so much. That's my husband, by the way. The meal I'm gonna have. Oh my goodness. Chris has made for dessert peanut butter cup lasagna. So that's gonna be dessert. Um, okay, they don't make it anymore, but if I'm gonna die anyways, they have this like stuffed pretzel crust pizza at Little Caesars a while back. I'm glad and I'm sad they no longer have it. And then crazy bread. And I know that's like a cheap last meal, but yeah, it's a weird favorite.
I love everything about that. Peanut butter cup lasagna. I'd be a
Yes.
peanut butter cup. I'm a fiend. So let's go.
Yes.
I love the simple things too. Like, hey, if it really just brings you simple joys, like, why not? I asked that question because I think I've told you this, like, who's holding your hand on your deathbed? This is my creative way of asking that question. I believe that I've written that thing that, the eyes are the windows of the soul, but they're also a mirror. And that, especially on our deathbed, I believe like that is should be the peak of our spiritual development as it in this physical body in this lifetime. And who's holding your hand is nothing more than a mirror. Like who's choosing to share that moment with you. So our spouses theoretically are the people that come into our life to help us heal the most, to grow the most, if we allow them to. So that's of course the process of life and building a loving, healthy marriage. So I love that. And then food, you and I both know food is not just food. Food is culture, it's beliefs, it's joy, it's happiness, it's feelings, all on a plate. And like, who are you going to share it with and why? And especially if you said, this is Chris's thing, like kind of taps in all those things all together. So love the response. I don't know what peanut butter cup lasagna is like. Is there actually pasta? I'm not a big pasta guy. I could just eat the peanut butter cups. What is it?
There's no pasta noodles. That'd be weird. It's just like layers, and I haven't had it in forever, but it's got like I think a graham base and chocolate pudding, and then maybe an Oreo base, and then another pudding or cream layer, and then of course all the peanut butter on top because I'm the same way, like peanut butter cups, favorite chocolate slash candy of all time. So
That sounds like drugs, and I'm here for it. It sounds so good. If you didn't know this about me, I have a massive, massive sweet tooth, and it's something I think this year is going to be the thing that I tackle. Last year, I gave up drinking just because with her being born, I wanted to not have that. I think this year might be. I talked to my wife today. I think that's going to be my journey. Anyway, neither here nor there. I might have to say like, honey, call up Kayla and like get the recipe because that sounds like fire. Overarching, by the way, and this might go in with like healing relationships, especially with men. The overarching theme to these three questions is it's my little version of bringing something from my childhood. So my dad, he worked a lot, had to travel a lot for work, this and that, but always knew he loved me. Once every 4 to 6 weeks, we'd go out for a boys' night. Go figure, I still do a boys' night every Wednesday with a couple friends of mine. But we would go to a place called Sports Authority. Maybe give me some sports stuff. We'd talk sports because that's what I was doing when I was younger. We'd grab a bite to eat and we'd see a movie. And that was like my version of feeling love and connection and that to my dad when I was younger. So it's my way of sharing love with you through all of my stuff too. And yeah, it's that sharing of like the healthy masculine. We talked a little bit about that on your episode or your podcast not too long ago as well. So great responses. Great responses. I love it. I love learning like they're fun little icebreaker kind of questions, but when we ask them properly, and if they have other stuff, so much cool stuff can come out of it. So I really liked your responses. That's my thoughts on them.
I really liked your questions, especially like when you gave the context of why you asked them.
Well, now you're making me blush. I love it. Kayla, my dear, we're getting close to the end here. If somebody's listening and they're like, I need more, yeah, you're celebrating, your fist bump and high five. Somebody's like, I need more Kayla in my life. Hey, I've got this book I want to put into the world. I want to express. Do you want to express your creativity too, my young child? You're lucky. I love you so much. I want to express this creativity full force. What would be the best way? Take a breath, little one. What would be the best way for somebody to?
There's a couple ways. So Instagram, I'm Embodied Writing Warrior. And then I also have a website where you can reach out to me if you'd like. So that's embodiedwritingwarrior.com. There is like a really cool free masterclass on there for anybody who wants to check that out. All my books are on there. And I also do have my podcast, which has like 180 episodes now. The name has changed a few times, but there's a lot of content on there. And to be fair, some of it was like very health coachy because that's what I was supposed to do. But honestly, if you go back, you can see the Easter eggs of like, she just wants to write about dragons and sharks and creativity. And now I'm just going to do that. So,
And not for nothing, anybody can learn a lot of stuff. Like, especially if somebody's going to birth a creative idea from themselves, to hear the full person and the way you think about the world. Like, coaching concepts don't change. Ultimately, coaching concepts don't really change from one thing that, like, some of the information does, and you need to be tactful. But the experience of engaging in that coaching relationship doesn't necessarily change beyond some of the basic tactics. So I think for anybody, and I've been a guest, what, 2, 3 times at this point. So like I have a blast, and we're talking about deeper, real things in general as well. Clearly, this one's getting fussy and she's ready for her dinner. Hey, hold on. We're almost done, sweetie. Before we go, what are the final words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience?
I would just encourage them to remember that they are not some problem to be solved and that they are powerful creators, and you can choose one. You can be the stressed out problem solver, you can be the powerful creator. Either one is a choice. And I believe everyone at their core is that powerful creator. And it's not so much of what do I need to fix? It's who do I want to become and putting your energy towards the creation. Because then if you become the person that you want to be, that you're meant to be, any problems you have, they're just going to naturally take care of themselves because you become the person who doesn't have those problems anymore by doing this work over here, if you can see me.
Kayla, you're awesome. I expected nothing less than greatness for that final response, and I felt that. That was really good. Definitely going to be a clip in the teasers for sure. I love that. Everybody, if you're listening, please go connect with my friend Kayla. She's awesome. You'll be happy you did. I promise you, like, only great things come from that. So go check her out on the Instagrams and all those other things that she had mentioned before. Go listen to the podcast. Again, I've been on there, so if you need some familiarity to start, go listen to something like that. But like, go down the rabbit hole, go connect, and you'll be happy you did. And then go unleash that creative side into the world and transmute all those old things into something beautiful that everybody can benefit from. So, with all that being said, from Remy, you want to wave bye bye to everybody? Yeah, thank you, honey. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your time, your energy with us today. I hope you found some value in all this. I know I did. With that, I remind you all, until next time, to love every